Welcome
Recording
everyone.
in progress.
Welcome everyone to the Municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc and the Finance Committee meeting on January 13th, 2025. Roll call, all councillors are present. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, motion to approve the agenda as presented. Councillor Kennis, second by the Deputy Mayor, all in favor? Carried. This is regarding the 2025 proposed municipal budget. Motion to receive the report first. Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Brennan, all in favor? Carried. I'm not going to deal with the second motion because that one would get defeated, and with everyone's permission, I'll start. You know, we're faced the way it is today with 11% tax rate. I know that none of us are happy with that and want to see that happen, but it's, you know, Director Dakin mentioned our assessment is down, our growth rate is down, and council did put some money in there. So if you indulge me, I'm going to deal with those two first, and that's a discussion regarding the reducing the levy by $500,000, the $500,000 that we had requested to have earmarked for Tri-Township Arena. I'm not going to make a motion, but I'll open the floor for discussion on the viability of doing that. Deputy Mayor.
Just a quick statement, and then I will pose a question to you, Your Worship. Tri-Township Arena sat last Thursday. We discussed this, and what Tri-Township Arena Board would like to do is begin a discussion with, I suspect, A-Link architecture, which I understand we have an agreement with to use, to get somebody in. We want to spend a little bit of money, have somebody come in and say, okay, here's what we can do. Something like, let's put a new vestibule on the front end of the arena, and this is what that would look like, and this is what this would look like. And then we've already talked about that, kind of a modular idea of maybe getting things better. That's what the board figures that they can actually achieve in 2025. And then it would be back in front of this council for 2026 with approval to move ahead on any of the modules that you want. So with that being said, I was thinking we would reduce that by half, or perhaps a little less than half, but then it was said to me that there is perhaps $400,000 already sitting in a reserve fund that I guess we designated last year, but I don't see that anywhere on any sheet. So my question is there $400,000 sitting in a, I'll call it a reserve fund, in a fund designated for this purpose, which TTA board can access to complete this preliminary architectural type work?
Yeah. Director Dakin, up, and it was me who quoted that number, because I believe we talked there's $411,000 sitting somewhere for Tri-Township Arena.
So through the chair to Deputy Mayor McGuire, so if you look on the carry forward sheet that shows about the 30 million that we're going to be completing in 2025 of the 24, you move down to just above museums, you'll see a RIFRS. So it's allocation for consulting and design, 600,000. 500 of that is for Mount Bridges, and 100,000 for the Gemini. So there's 600 sitting there. Some of that money has been spent because of the work that was done already on sort of looking at the possibility of the Caradoc Community Center, I believe it was, lands and stuff there. Maybe would they be able to support this? But I would say close to 400,000 is available.
If I may, Your Worship.
Yeah, go ahead, Deputy.
Thank you for that. Then I would propose that the 500 that we designated towards Tri-Township Arena at one of our last discussions could be removed, and we have a source of funding, and we can move forward on that basis.
Seconder to the motion. Councillor Hippel, any other questions? See none, all in favor of that motion. Carried. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
The second one I want to discuss is the, I believe it was $500,000 we allocated for Strathroy-Caradoc housing. I'm gonna ask first, we'd asked for a true accounting of what the real costs would be. I just asked, where are we at with that too? Or to know exactly what we need.
Following the meeting that council had in December, I have been in touch and are working with Tim Welsh to get that report ASAP before council.
Okay. Any questions, comments, or concerns, or ideas of removing that money? Councillor Palmer.
So I think in previous budgets, there was an amount allocated to supportive housing, I think is the category. Is that already in the budget and then we've allocated another 500? Because if we've already got that 350, 360 in, maybe we don't need the additional 5.
Director Dakin.
So through the chair to Councillor Hammer, there's nothing in the current budget for Caradoc housing because there is no budget yet for Caradoc housing. So what it was in the past was whatever was presented sort of to the Caradoc Housing Board, or Strathroy-Caradoc Housing Board, excuse me, was then included in our budget. So if you recall last year, it was about 120,000, we'll say, plus about another 600,000. So for the new building, so I think it was in the neighborhood of about 750,000 between those two. So there was zero sort of funds allocated within the municipal budget to go towards that. They were basically just a record of the funds that were presented by the board.
Any other questions? I have Councillor Canis.
Just on Caradoc housing, my understanding is that there's still a sizable surplus in the day-to-day operating account at this point. While the building may not be making money, there is still a fair bit of cash in that account that would probably take it through the year, I would think, 2025. If most of the units, I believe all the units have been rented out now, so there is a regular cash flow coming in as well.
I believe so too. Director Dakin and Councillor Wilsey.
So I through the chair to Councillor Canis, I don't have the banking information for Caradoc Housing present, that being a separate board. So I can get that number, but I think that's comes from the board specifically, so. Yeah.
I think I know what it is, but I'm going to ask Councillor Wilsey if you wanted to jump in.
No, I don't know what's in that account.
Okay.
I know that it's not enough to repay the $2 million that the municipality lent them. So if we're going to ask them to use a surplus that's in their account, I don't believe, maybe the current members of the board can see if we've got the HST back in the last month from 2023. I don't know. But if we haven't got the HST back from 2023, that we were counting on to repay that $2 million, and we haven't repaid that $2 million, if we're going to use the money in that account, then we need to have the $2 million somewhere in our books, because we're not likely ever going to see that again. So the two, yes, we can maybe cut it out of this budget, but we have to make allowances for that $2 million that we gave Strathroy-Caradoc Housing if we're somewhere.
Yeah. I agree, we have to allocate somewhere. Councillor Canis.
Well, that's why I don't think you could make a rash decision on that tonight, because there could indeed be $2 million of equity in the building, and that belongs to Strathroy-Caradoc. So that would then repay that money. So without seeing all of the reports that are being done at this point, and having I think we talked about an appraisal on the building as well, having a clear understanding of what the value is there, it's hard to allocate money when we really don't know where we sit in terms of cash and overall value of the property.
Go ahead, Councillor Derbyshire.
I'll put forward the motion, since I put it forward to begin with the first time. Just remove the $500, and when they need money, I guess we'll deal with it at that point.
You said $500, you meant 500,000.
Yeah, I know.
Few zeros there.
I'm taking zeros off. We're just shortchanging stuff.
Yeah. I will second that motion. Any other discussion? Councillor Hippel.
Through yourself. So The money that we were talking about though was for renovations also, right? Because we were looking at, we have 2 empty on the Queen Street. So does that leave that just kind of high and dry and we don't worry about that till 2026? Like, I'm not sure where that kind of leaves that area, because we always talk about the apartment building, but we always forget about that. So I'm just not sure what happens there.
Go ahead, I can, maybe, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I'll say it.
Yeah.
We don't have a functioning board right at Strathroy-Caradoc Housing Corp. The only 2 members are the mayor and I. Because of our positions, we sit ex officio on every board and committee, so we're appointed, we can't leave. We are in the process of getting that board reconstituted, which will fall to this council to give direction, probably through the striking committee or any other way that you wish to do it. So there's a step, that step, I think a lot of us are missing that. We're in a holding pattern for the moment, and yes, we have been in contact with legal about it, so we know what we're doing.
Okay,
Sure can.
sure. Okay, so a follow-up through yourself would be then, because we're in this situation, taking out the 500,000, and I get it, but then, I mean, what if all of a sudden we realize, holy smokes, we actually need to be putting money into that? Like, I guess I just don't want to, like I said, I don't want to leave them high and dry. So what do we do in the meantime? Do we just let it go?
So I'm gonna attempt to answer that, because I don't know if manager Lindsay wants to help me, but I do know there are funds in the Strathroy-Caradoc bank account. I'm just very hesitant to give an amount because I may be wrong, but I think last time we looked at cash available, Caradoc Housing was, I'm looking, feel free to jump in or ignore me. 500, no, because if you don't, but last time I looked, I thought there was 500,000 or $600,000 cash available in Caradoc. And I don't need to read this, but I'm just doing this from memory,
So
Lindsay.
through council to the mayor, yeah, it's in that neighborhood, yeah.
So I think that's where we need to have a greater discussion, that there is, council needs to have, once we get everything back, that there is cash available, but it's a greater council discussion, as Councillor Wilsey mentioned about the loans and the HST and all of that, so we may not need the money, we have cash in the bank if we had to do something. So, Councillor Pelkman.
I think it's just an important statement to make, even if we do remove the $500,000, that we as a council are prepared to backstop Caradoc Housing. And if something happens that needs to be repaired, then it will get repaired.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Okay, we have a motion. All in favor of the motion? Opposed, if any? Carried. So the reason I did that, according to the director, that gets us down to a 7% tax rate increase, and that's where we should start. And Councilor Brennan told me we would need pinking shears, but we probably need a chainsaw to take to the budget. And I did have a discussion today with Director Dakin about using reserve funds, so I'm gonna ask Director Dakin, are you able to look at where we could move, or do you want the direction from council as to what move, or are we able to look at opportunities where we could use reserve funds?
So through the chair to the chair, council's able to move reserve funds and cover off taxation no matter what. So I think it would be prudent upon council to sort of just say, listen, what are we looking to replace? So I would say if you look at your current, and I'm assuming based on some of these things that we're looking at the capital, so if you look at the capital budget and go down the taxation line at the end, where it totals to 4.1 million, we're basically looking for about another 450,000, all told. So anywhere where it says taxation, those numbers are available to be used. We could transfer funds from reserves to cover off those numbers.
So we need 450,000 to get down, what would that get us down to?
So through the chair to the chair, 450,000, so if you were to cut 450,000, you get down below 5%, so you'd be around a 4.9, 4 point.
Does anyone mind if I make a motion? I mean, it'll help. I'd like to make a motion that we move dollars for the South Grove Park playground installation and the Campbellville site park and use money from the Parks Reserve to pay for those two initiatives. Second, any quick, go ahead, Councilor Cannon.
So what's in that reserve, just,
Yep,
Yeah.
there's $1 million, go ahead. I have this all wrote down somewhere, I didn't come prepared.
Through the chair to Councillor McKenna, between the cash in lieu of parkland and the Parks Reserve, there's about $800,000 available. So in essence, you'd be cutting these reserves in about half.
Councilor Canis.
and at this point, that 800,000 is not there for any specific purpose?
Through the chair to Councillor Kennis, I'm not aware of any earmarked money within those. Cash in lieu of parkland is where developers provide cash in lieu of providing property. So we have that, those funds are sort of just generally. I should also point out that, you know, there are a number of subdivisions on the go, so depending on how those roll out, you might need to put some money into those. So again, you're cutting those reserves in about half.
Yeah, follow up, Councilor Canis and Councilor
I
Brown.
guess just a statement, but then in essence, the money is being used for the intended purpose.
Through the chair to Councillor Kennis, those are parkland reserves, both of them, so these are parks, so I would say yes.
Councilor Brandon and Councilor Wilson. Councilor Brandon.
That was gonna be my point. It's not very radical to take money from a park reserve to pay for parks.
Yep.
Probably what it's meant for.
Yep. Councilor Wilson.
Just in my memory, I'm just going back on the South Grove, I had thought there were development charges to pay for some of that park, and I see it's all completely out of taxation. And I know we had to give a credit back to the developer, but I didn't think the credit was $250,000, so I just wanted to go over what development charges were there and how much actually needs to come out of tax. I don't know if that number is accurate, 'cause if I remember right, I thought we had to give the developer about $100,000 credit, and that there was money in development charges to pay for part of that park. Just want to review that before we spend $250,000 and we get a $600,000 park when that wasn't what we were supposed to put there.
So you go ahead, Director Dakin or Director Lavoie.
Through the chair to council, the original $250,000 was allocated about 5 years ago for the development of that park. The intention was to receive $100,000 from the developer to assist through the construction of the pavilion. Council, I want to say it was August, maybe July, I can't remember. It was a meeting at Mount Bridges where where council credited the developer the $100,000. So we're back down to $250,000 that was previously earmarked by previous council. The funds would not be sufficient to build a park on that large piece of property. We can still build a park for $250,000. It's just not going to be significant enough for that space. So council at the last budget meeting discussed taking money from the Campbellville allocation of the 450 and transferring it over to South Grove to be able to provide them with a lovely park on that piece of property. It is a very large piece of property that would need to be developed. But the original 250 was allocated and provided about 5 years ago now. So with inflation and so on, that 250 is probably about 175.
Did I misspeak? It's actually 350 to South Grove and 150 to Campbellville for design, or the numbers accurate?
Through the chair to the chair, so it's 200,000 to Campbellville and 250.
Okay, thank you.
So it's the 450.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Pelkman.
Just as a refresher, what was the IT upgrade for the council chamber?
We've got a motion. Can we vote on this motion first? So we have a motion. Deputy Mayor second.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion in front? Carried. So now Councillor Pelkman.
Sorry, I had already moved on in my head.
Yeah.
Just wondering what that 150 is for, and if we actually think we're gonna spend it this year.
Yep, Director Dakin.
Through the chair to Councillor Parkman. So that was brought up by, I believe it was the deputy mayor, the need for technology upgrade within the council chambers. Specifically, I think around the idea of screens, those kinds of things for the different positions within the horseshoe. Some upgrades as far as infrastructure, as far as our sound and stuff. Most of that is already up to date. But it was basically around upgrading the technology that council would have, so you wouldn't have to bring in iPads, bring in your own personal computers. The equipment would be at each of those stations. So that was a sort of rough budget that we got from our suppliers to what we were sort of looking for. That would be probably the maximum amount.
Yeah, Councillor Wilsey.
I would actually want to make a motion. I don't, just looking at IT upgrades and just the connectivity issues we're having with everything else. I don't know if I like the idea of going to ones where I don't have to bring in my own device, because we make our own notes, we do different things. We just upgraded council chambers like 2 years ago. I would actually want to make a motion to remove that from this year's budget, and we look at maybe delaying that for a year, looking at it next year when we're in a better position. So I'd like to make a motion that we remove the IT upgrades for council chambers from this year's budget.
Okay, you have someone to second that motion. Councillor Derbyshire. Comments? Deputy Mayor.
I respect what you're saying. I think, like right now, I'm taking snapshots of screens on my own computer, this computer, which I don't own anyways, it's the county's, and trying to flip back and forth. I need a screen here. I mean, this is 2025 now. I need a screen, a big one, in front of me with the spreadsheet up. I'm going back, I just went back a year to pull up the sheet we had with all the reserves on it when we were talking about reserves. I still will bring this in. I may bring another one in, but I need these other things in front of me. So, like, I don't think we can continue to put this off. I see councillors using little weenie devices, which I think are totally inappropriate. But there is something in the IT budget that I want to speak to afterwards, but I'll let you run that motion first.
Okay,
If
any
there are
other
comments.
Councillor Hippel and Councillor Canis.
Through yourself, I also looked at that, like Councillor Wilsey and Councillor Pelpin, I was wondering about it. But I do know we have connectivity issues with, you know, the odd time we're having problems to connect for the people that, you know, in the community that want to be able to see and be involved through their screens. But my biggest issue is with the IT and my iPad is that I've 3 or 4 times you know, tried to get onto Zoom, tried to get onto a Zoom meeting, and I haven't been able to get on because it's not working, not functioning properly, and then I miss a whole entire meeting. So yes, I would like something a little bit more sustainable, upgraded, and you know, as the deputy mayor said, I mean, it's 2025 and it's very, very difficult using this. So I would agree with you.
Councillor Canis.
Yeah, I agree with both Councillor Hippel and Deputy Mayor. I think we get accused of not having up-to-date equipment, that we're not being transparent, you know, that the machines aren't running, so you know, yeah, anyway, if that means we have to have state-of-the-art equipment in order to broadcast our meetings, then that's what we need. And so I do not support the motion, but I do support us spending the money necessary to bring us up to date here, so.
Any other, Councilor Derbyshire?
Okay, I guess through you to the director, I would have a question then. What, again, is that 150 getting us? Is it getting us better connection, or is it just getting us all monitors to sit on our desk? If that's it, then you guys better have monitors too, so then we can actually all begin to interact and pull up whatever documents we need to do. But if 150 only gets us 7 or 8 monitor things, then that's ridiculous, and go to Best Buy, we'll get them there. Like, what does $150,000 get us?
Director Dakin. Sorry, Director Dakin.
Through the chair to Councilor Derbyshire. So it is a list of things, one of them being the technology for your desk, but the other is looking at our connectivity issues. I must say that some of our connectivity issues in the past have been not necessarily a result of us, but because of our streaming is through a third-party service, and that third-party service is having difficulty connecting, it's not us. So part of it is to address some of those things. So I think what we're trying to do is spend that money wisely in those 3 areas. Obviously, connectivity is a big, I would say would be the biggest push. Make sure that we're good, that we have solid infrastructure here, that we can stream our meetings so that people can see them. And then from there, we would sort of roll out the technology at each of the hardware at each of the desks positions so that people have the proper technology there.
Any other comments? Okay, second motion, all in favor of the motion?
And that is removing the motion.
Removing the money, yeah, that's
Okay.
the motion. Opposed? Motion is defeated. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Staying within the IT budget, I see IT, so I'm not, where am I in? I am on the last report that we have, where it itemizes each department. As you scroll down from the spreadsheet, it gives us all the itemized. So I'm in that. IT transfers to reserves. I see historically 23, we transferred over 32,000. Last year we transferred, we budgeted 175.5. It doesn't show that anything actually went over. And now they're asking for $294,000 to transfer to reserves. I'm just wondering, what is that for? Or is that part of the 150 that we just spoke about? And why?
No, sorry.
Through the chair to the deputy mayor. So the reserve transfers for 24, we're just in the process of moving those numbers across currently. So that would have been made either today or next week. As far as what does that reserve transfer look to, it is basically for server replacement. So as we move forward, instead of coming to council every 5 years saying we need $700,000 to replace our servers, we're setting aside money for technology, these kinds of things. So even looking at the upgrade to council chambers, once we do those council chambers, that equipment would be added to our sort of asset list, and the asset list is being updated then through these things as opposed to coming back to council. So the reserve transfers are for those infrastructure upgrades.
So, Deputy Mayor. Then I would understand right now that we have roughly $200,000 in that reserve currently then, because you're saying the 175.5 flows across shortly. So putting another 300 in, we're going to go up to about 600,000 in reserves. So what is the effect if we cut the 300 in half? Well, it's 294, so I'll say it's 300, we'll cut it in half, put 150 in now. Does that, it seems to me that now puts 450 in there and continues to push that project forward, maybe just not as quick as before. I mean, somehow we have to get the numbers down, and so that's what I'm trying to do. And thoughts on that, Your Worship?
You're asking to use the IT reserve money.
I'm looking at cutting the 294 in half, which would be somebody do the math. Willsie's good at math, quick.
147.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And what would the effects of that be? I'm asking the director I mean, I know the effects, but what does he think of it?
Through the chair to the deputy mayor. So what it would do is just reduce the money being transferred into reserves, and when those numbers come forward, as far as replacing servers or whatever, if we require more money, we'll just have to budget for it. It just shortens this way it shortens the time span on accumulating that money. This way it just makes it a little longer. There's really no effect as far as on current operation.
Okay. Deputy Mayor.
I'll put it on the floor that we reduce the IT reserves for this year from 294 to 147.5 would be half? Or 150, I'll just make a round number, 150. Reduce it to 150.
Okay. Does someone to second your motion? Councillor Palmer. Any questions? Councillor Canis.
I'm just a little bit concerned about that. I almost look at this as, I forget, I'm trying to rack my brain as to the program that we use for replacing capital.
Asset management?
Asset management. So I really look at this as another component to asset management, but this is our computer fleet rather than our truck fleet. And I'm just concerned. To me, this seems to be the prudent thing to set the money that we need aside every year in order to replace those servers, as the example was given. That we have the money when those servers need to be replaced, because if something goes wrong, or they get old and they get worn out, they have to be replaced. We can't operate without the necessary computer hardware that we need to run the place. So, again, I understand and I appreciate trying to reduce things, but this is one of those things where I think that if we do it equal amounts every year, it's the wise thing to do.
Any other Councillor Pelkman.
I have to admit, I'm a little nervous about that too, and I'm just wondering, before we have a vote on that, can we have a status as to where we're sitting at?
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Oh, yeah, where are we at with, you mean tax reduction? Yeah.
We had 4.9.
Director Dakin?
So through the chair to council, currently then with the cuts being proposed, so the 500,000 and then the 450, we're sitting at a 4.9 currently. If we're going to drop another percentage, we're going to need to cut another about 680,000. But we're sitting at about 4.9 right now.
Okay. I don't, were you looking to put your hand over? I didn't
No,
know.
because there's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, comment, yes.
That was exactly what I was gonna ask for, where we are now. We're at 4.9%, and that's what I just wanted to know before we voted on this measure.
Okay. Councillor Wilsey.
So just for where we're looking at this and with the council upgrades, I've been looking at the IT section since I came on council, looking at the work in progress projects. And if you take a look at the capital reserves, they've gone up substantially. Like they were 34,000, then they were 130, and now they're gonna be 250. So they're going up more than $100,000 per year as they've been going up. But the other part is if you look at the work in progress and what's been done when they reported the capital projects, we actually haven't done any IT projects. So there should be, like when I look at the reports, I don't see any server upgrades. Whenever I look at how much was spent on the previous year, it's been zero from 2022 to now. So if we're putting money into those reserves every year and we haven't done anything for 2022, I think there should be more than enough to pay for these upgrades there because we haven't done anything in the last 3 years.
Councillor Pelkman.
My recollection is the servers are incredibly expensive, and we did an upgrade not too long ago, which was why there was next to nothing in the reserve when this term started.
I have to tell you, I know IT too, and hesitant to cut money from servers, because servers are your lifeblood, and if IT goes down,
For business.
we're out of business. So the second motion, all in favor of the deputy mayor's motion? Opposed, if any? Motion's defeated. I'm gonna take one last, sorry, Councilor Pamela, you have one more, but you go ahead.
Yeah, there was just an item line here that I wondered about, and that is the community improvement program. So in 2023, we budgeted like 600,000 for that, and the uptake of it was 156. 2024, we budgeted 750,000, and the uptake was 76,000. And this year, we budgeted 500,000. And I'm just wondering, is it realistic, based on the history, to think that we're gonna get anywhere even close to that? I mean, last year, we only had 75,000 used in that. So I'm just wondering if that number is realistic, or if that number could come down to, say, 250, or what we think might actually get used this year.
So through the chair to Councilor Pamela, so the community partnership program is used between probably building and planning and economic development. So you'll remember that we're looking at some major industries coming into town, moving, and some moving here in town to the north end, and they have been made aware of those community improvement plans. So some of those major corporations can take 200,000 or 300,000 in one application. So what we try and do is, once we have an application and it looks like it's fairly solid, before we bring it to council, that money's earmarked out of there. So this sort of keeps us with some money sitting there, that if something were to come along, we would have some incentives to continue to attract business.
Councilor Pamela, follow up then. Councilor
Yeah,
Bryan.
so are you saying then that we've put 500,000 in it because you anticipate there's gonna be some use from that program this year? Okay, perfect, thank you, that's fine.
Councilor Brennan.
Through the chair to the Director of Finance, 1% decrease in taxation at this point represents how many dollars that we need to cut?
Through the chair to Councilor Brennan, yes. 1% would be about $250,000. So typically, in order to cut 1% from our 1% of levy is $250, but 1% from our tax rate would be about $450,000. That's what we're seeing.
So if we cut 250,000 at this point, we'd go from a 4.9 to a 3.9, is that correct?
Through the chair to Councilor Brennan, no, in order to get down to a 3.9, we need to cut an additional about 650,000.
Aren't we at 4.9 now, though?
We're at 4.9 currently.
4.9. To get to 3.9?
You need to cut,
No, because when we were cutting 500,000 each time, we were dropping it by 2%, weren't we?
Yeah.
So 250, is it 250 to drop at 1%?
This is where the levy and the.
yeah, so we're comparing levy and rate. So
I'm just looking for council to have a target here. We're at a 4.9. If we want a 3.9, I'd like to know how many dollars we need to cut to get to a 3.9, and then we can proceed on that basis, and maybe, maybe 3.9 is a target that council might agree to. I don't know. But
Thank you for that, because I'm sitting on something. to
so
bring
like,
forward.
I'm just thinking, like, let's
Yeah.
we can talk all night, but if we want to get to a 3.9, let's figure out how many dollars it is, and let's make a couple of motions, and we can do it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, Councilor. So, Councilor Canis, you can comment.
I've heard a few comments around that 4.9 is a pretty good number when we were talking 7% earlier. So I don't think we should get too carried away in trying to cut the rate, because eventually there are still huge projects. I commend what we're trying to do this year and cleaning up projects that haven't been completed, that are, I think that's a very smart thing that's being undertaken to get all of those projects off the, whatever you want to call it, the board, and get them done and then move forward. But there are big things out there that need to be done. in the future, like Front Street and Head Street and many other streets, I assume, need to be done as well. So I'm just afraid that cutting too much now just means we're gonna have to charge more in the future. And, you know, to me, who's not planning on running again, we could go to zero, that'd be all look good on my legacy, but I'd rather be realistic and be smooth, more of a smooth rate over a number of years rather than up and down all the time, so, just a comment.
Okay, any other follow-up? Councillor Palkman.
Yeah, I would second that comment. I thought last year we cut a little too far, and I think we're seeing the result of that now. So if we do it again, if we cut too far, next year is gonna be incredibly difficult.
Okay, Councillor Wilsey.
I'm gonna go the opposite direction, not necessarily talk about where the tax rate are, but talk about numbers that we have in the budget that I think may need to be adjusted, or to see if they're in there. The first one I'm gonna ask about is an environmental assessment for Mount Bridges and the wastewater treatment. Do we have money in the budget to start that assessment, or is that something we're putting off for another year, is my first question.
Fair question. We'll try Director Dakin or Director Ortiz, whoever would like to answer that.
I'll take that. Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Wilsey, I believe we have a budget line item allocated for the EA there for the Mount Bridges plans.
Okay, just as long as it's there, I remember looking for it but couldn't find it. And the other question was on the police station. Just looking at the budget of the police station, I think we should do one of two things. We should either reduce the amount in the budget to cover design only, or increase the amount so that it covers the amount of what the consultants estimated it was going to cost back in 2023, which was 10.5 million on the documents that were presented to council. So right now we only have 9 million allocated to it. In 2023, the consultant said it was going to cost 10.5. If we're going to leave it at 9, we're not leaving enough to build the station anyways. And if we're concerned about money, there's two things there. Previously, when we brought on more debt, we added the amount of that debt payment to our debt budget, which I believe we've done in this budget, so we should be consistent and either increase the amount so that it covers the whole thing and add that payment, or we should reduce it down to design only, knowing that we'll have to put that on next year when the construction gets approved. We should do one of those.
Thanks, because I want to ask about the police. The reason why it's there is there as long we haven't. It's just there as a number. We haven't approved it. We haven't done it. Really, it shouldn't even be on this budget document, correct? 'Cause it's going to be, if not earliest, a 2026 projects. We'll be talking about it for the 2026 budget, correct?
So through the chair to the chair, so my understanding with the police number is it's a placeholder right now. When that project goes forward, obviously, I think they're moving forward to a class C.
Yeah.
I get the A, B, and C's all mixed up. Class B assessment, which is basically, we'll give an actual number, which that number will then be updated or downsized one of the two.
Correct. So it's a 2026 number, right?
So if that's the case, can we just reduce it to whatever the design's gonna cost this year, and then at 2026, we'll put in an actual number instead of this number that is already 15% lower than what the consultants thought it was going to be in 23?
Is the placeholder number correct, Director?
So, through the chair to Councillor Wilsey, so the money to do the Class B assessment is already in the budget. It was part of last year's number, so that money's sitting there. So the loan is just showing in the column of a loan. There's no tax implication to that number right now.
Any other, Councillor Derbyshire?
I guess this is where I'm gonna say I get a little confused. Because we then show that we need $30 million in this budget, but 10 of that is a loan that's there as a placeholder. So are we using taxation to cover other things even though this 30's in there? Like, I guess I just go back to this summary here, and I'll just start fresh where it says, the summary is the first page of this proposed budget, and it says the approved budget for 2024 was $43,337,000. The unaudited actuals is $31,888,000. The taxation collected and used was $21,938,000. When I take our budget versus our actual unaudited, and then that's $11 million there. So, and I understand we're moving projects forward. So if we're moving projects forward into this year, that we've already taxed for, right? Why are we then moving from 43 million to 45 million if essentially we're cleaning up a bunch of stuff we've already taxed for? And where is the difference of the 11 million going? Like I've lost somewhere here, that could be it, but I've racked my brain looking at this thing to figure out how, if we're just cleaning up projects and only adding 5,000 or 5 million more to the capital budget, why are we at 45 million proposed budget for this year? It's all in this summary.
Yeah, right there, right? Oh.
Yeah, like we're moving our tax revenue that we're going to collect to 24 million. So that's a $3 million increase there, but we're cleaning up projects and not really looking like, so maybe I really could be doing this wrong, but I just need some clarification to explain to me how we need to go from 43 to 45 million, but yet we're cleaning up projects and not really doing a whole lot more. Like, where is the 11 million left over from here? And how do we get ourselves now to 40 when we're cleaning up projects we've already taxed for?
You just wanna know how we got that number.
Well, yes, and like I wanna know if we're just cleaning up projects, then how is that not dropped down? How are we not moving from 31 up?
Director Dakin?
So through the chair to Councilor Derbyshire, I'm gonna assume you're talking about the schedule that has our current capital of the 29, and then there's.
I'm just using the preliminary operating budget summary where it says the approved budget was 43 million. So I know it says operations at the top, but I mean, at 43 million, that's gotta have our loans or grants or this, that, like, that's gotta be our total, right?
So through the chair to Councilor Derbyshire, so this is just operation only.
Okay.
That summary sheet is the operations only, so if you're looking at the 43 million, that was 2024 operations, our year-to-date spend as of just before Christmas was about 31 million. So there's still invoices coming in.
So that's 11 million in just the operation.
In operation expenses to go through in 2024. So we'll close this out. This is just operation, so none of this money, if there's surpluses within these departments, they get carried forward as far as reserves. So this is operation only, doesn't include any capital. So in 2025, we're proposing to go up 47 to 47 million. So you're seeing an increase of about just over $1 million in taxation. So if I'll walk our way across the page. So
then what's our capital? Sorry.
Our capital is the other sheet.
So you don't have a nice summary then for the capital that says we're spending 35 million?
Yeah.
For a total of
Yeah.
70 some odd million?
So, if you look at the capital sheet, it shows current 2025 capital is gonna be 29 million, 29.3 million. 10.4 of that is basically adding money to projects that are already in the works from 2024 and before. So that basically, we're taking on about $18 million of 18 million in new projects. You'll notice the taxation over in the far corner is 4.1 million. So we just reduced that by another 450,000 because we took the 250 for South Grove and the 200 for Campbellville, and we're pulling that from reserves. So we're reducing our taxation on that by the 450,000. So the 4.1 million will be reduced by that. Then below that, you'll see we're looking at also carrying forward. Part of that is the projects from 2023 and forward is another 20 million. So total capital is going to be in the neighborhood of about 45 million.
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Bo.
okay, so just so I understand this, our operational budget is 43 million
47 for 2025.
for 2025 coming up. And our, the other one, whatever, capital budget is gonna be 45,
Including carry forward.
including carry forward.
Right.
Okay,
So
so
you wanna
we're,
look at just straight
so we're
total.
talking a grand total then of like $92 million,
Correct.
with taxation covering 23 million of that.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't forget some of it's carryover, right, Bo? Some of that 90 million is carryover.
But we're
that's
still,
already
we
been
need
done.
23 million here proposed in 2025.
Yes.
So that's what we need here, 23 million in taxation to cover a total cost of $102 million.
Correct.
So the rest, so then the rest of it comes out of grants.
Grants, loans, if there's some loans, there's grants, development charges, water, and sewer rates. The rest is those revenues, as well as user fees at the parks, user fees at the arenas, all of those. And then, in the case of some of the capital, there's some deferred revenue as well, that we've already got grants moving forward as well.
But that's, sorry, so that's 80 million we make up in non-tax revenue for a total. See, it would be nice if you put this together so we can see this total, because I really didn't know we spent $102 million total in this municipality. You know, when we look at all this stuff here, like I assumed our non-taxable thing was 21 and going up to, or 23, yeah, 21 last year, and our taxable was 21 for a grand total of somewhere around $42 million. So when we add all these numbers up, we're at $102 million to operate this whole place. Okay.
Okay,
In 2025.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Divine, I've heard council say about the 4.9% increase. I'd like to take the track and get it down to 4.5. Council can reject it. I'm just gonna ask Director Dakin, the CCBF, the former gas tax, is that the AMO fund that's administered by AMO?
Through the chair to the chair, correct. That is the.
So I'm just gonna ask, as Councilor Brennan said, move from one column to another. Because I note that we have $450,000 of arena repairs coming out of the gas tax. My motion will be that we move $250,000 of that to the arena reserve, and we take $250,000 from the bridge and culverts, which is allowed under the AMO, and take that out of the gas tax. So think we can do that, correct? I'm just asking to use the half the arena reserve what it's for, and let bridges and culverts, half of that money come out of the gas tax, which it's allowed to use for bridge and culvert repair.
Through the chair to the chair, so council's privy to do whatever they want with those funds. Obviously, the community building fund is earmarked for recreation and infrastructure, so there's certain fences put up around that money of what you could use it for, but both of those would qualify for those projects.
Yeah. So I'm just asking council to make a motion to reduce the taxation on bridges and culverts, which is at 575, reduce it by $250 by taking money out of the gas tax. And then I've shot everything that I wanted to do.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Sorry. And I just want, so I understand what you're saying. We're reducing $250 in taxation by moving money around.
Yes,
Okay. So there's a total savings of $250,000.
on taxation.
Taxation.
On taxation.
Okay.
Councillor Canis.
I guess I'm okay with that. I guess just, again, my question would be, that money hasn't been specifically earmarked for something else, that we're robbing one pot to pay another pot.
So again, through the chair to Councillor Kennis, no, we're not robbing, but one needs to understand that once that money's spent, that money's
Spent.
spent.
Yeah.
It's not something that, just gets replenished overnight.
Sorry, Councillor Brennan.
So seeing as that money is not yet allocated, is that correct? We'd be giving up a very nice cushion for any unexpected events that occur over the next year. It's always nice to have a couple of dollars in an account if something comes up unexpectedly, that we don't have to scramble. Just saying that it's sometimes nice to have a few extra dollars in an account like that when something comes up. And we'd be giving that away, and there's a risk connected to that.
Yeah, I just say, I'm not going to lessen what we're taking out of the gas tax. It'll be the same. What I'm going to lessen is the arena reserve, take money for arena reserves to pay for arena. So it's neutral on the gas tax, Councillor, but reduce the $1.1 million it's sitting in the arena reserve by 250. So there's two moves. Councillor Pelkman.
Just wondering if we could recess for a bio break.
We can, yes. All in favor of recess? Seconder, we need a seconder.
Sure.
Deputy Mayor, all in favor? Carried. Thank you for that.
Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome back. So you're discussing my motion. Any other comments, concerns?
What was the
So long ago, I don't know. To reduce the taxation on the bridges and culverts by $250,000. Take that $250 from the gas tax and take $250 of the $450 for the arena repairs from the arena reserve. Councillor Palmer.
Would that bring the taxation down to 4.5?
Through the chair to Councillor Palmer, that'll bring us around 3.9 now. So to go down, I did the calculation, to go down another percent, or excuse me, a percent would be 233, so we're below the 3.9.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Kennis.
Again, not that I want to give the impression that I love spending money, but you know, are there bridges and culverts that are being delayed now that should be repaired, that could be repaired with this money? Again, I'm not, you know, I understand what's being done here, but again, a lot of this stuff, eventually you have to pay the piper, and I'm just, you know.
Actually leaving the money in, Councillor, the money's staying in, the amount they're looking for, the $575, is staying in. I'm just asking to take half of it from reserves, the other half, so the total amount is staying in the budget.
I appreciate that, but again, it's still money that won't be there if something else happens, and people need to be aware of that as well.
Yep. Councillor Derbyshire.
What are we gonna spend it on? Nothing, like you just wanna remove it so we can drop taxation?
Okay, second motion, I'm willing, all in favor of the motion.
But it's roads.
Opposed, if any? So that's 5, right? So motion looks like it's defeated. Okay, I'm fine. Anything else? Councillor Wilsey.
I want to go back to debt payments for a minute. Looking at the capital budget, there is 3.9 million for Queen Street reconstruction that looks like it's coming due this year as debt. When I look at the debt page and where our payments are, I don't see that listed as an expense. So is that something we're not paying for this year, or is that not come on till next year? But that is a debt that's listed to come on that's not listed on the operations budget debt sheet.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilsey, so that will be coming on stream in 2026 because the project will be completed in 2025.
So with that being said, are we going to do the same process we did last year and put our debt payments in that so it's there? And this is a question to council, not necessarily to the director. That's the way we did it, so that we didn't have to have as big of a tax increase for projects we did. Or do we want to make that a one-year process and we're not going to do that again?
So you're asking for the debt payment to be on the books now?
Well, that was a precedent we set last year, is we added the debt payment into our taxes and then used that against to reduce the debt, but then that way we didn't have to have a tax increase to cover debt for projects we did this year. We already planned for that.
Yeah, Councillor Pelkman.
I guess my response to that, because I agreed with Greg last year, I thought that we should be doing that. However, I don't think that we anticipated that costs of some stuff would increase so much, and also that as people are having their mortgages come due in this cycle, that a lot of people are facing pressures that they didn't have previously. So I think we, on the taxpayers' behalf, I think we owe it to them to not do that this time.
Okay. Councillor Derbyshire.
I understand what both are saying. I guess where I have the problem with this is we're pulling money out of somewhere to pay this project, because otherwise we would take a construction loan, which we would then start paying on, and it get converted to another loan. So we are essentially paying it somewhere here, whether it's coming out of a reserve that could be going somewhere else or not. Like, I think the point of a lot of this is when we start the project, we should begin to believe that we're gonna finish it through to the end, which is Otherwise, we should not be starting projects that we don't intend to complete. So when construction's going on and work's being done, I do believe we should be taking them up, like that money's coming out of a reserve somewhere, so it might as well be going back in and being paid for as if we had a loan on the project when the construction started. I mean,
Yeah. Councillor Pelton.
So the debt payments form part of our operating budget, correct? And there's a schedule of when debt payments are finished and when they start. And if my memory's correct, there's one that's finishing this year, is there not? So in essence, the money to pay for the loan for Queen Street will be there next year because we finished paying for one loan this year. And that debt payment then therefore won't exist next year.
Any other comments, questions, ideas on the budget?
So right now we're sitting at 4.9. I think we're slightly high. I think 3.9 is slightly low. I was hoping for a 4.4 or 4.3, somewhere in there. And so a question, without making the same motion as you made that was defeated, but if I change the numbers, is it the same motion?
I would say it's not.
So without repeating everything that the mayor said, because we remember his motion, if we only moved if we moved $150,000, so the 250 goes from the gas tax to the bridges and culverts, and the 150 comes out of the rec reserves back into the rec-related item. That's a tax savings of $100,000, which should put us somewhere around the 4.5 mark % increase. Am I correct?
Correct, but I think if I could just walk you through, if you could walk me through that calculation again, I think we're actually adding 100,000, not reducing it by 100,000.
So you want to reduce it?
So I think it was 250, if I'm not mistaken, was the number that was being moved out of the arenas and going up into the bridges.
Mm-hmm.
So we would need to take that 250.
That comes out of so the bridges and culverts actually.
Yeah, so I can real simple.
I want to see.
Can I simplify this a little bit?
I want to see.
Go ahead.
Councillor.
All right, so at the end of the day, the net result is we are removing money from the arena reserve. So instead of talking about the gas tax and the culverts and everything, leave all that in place and just change the arena budget, take more from the reserves and less in taxation. On the arena side, leave the gas tax and the culvert thing all the same, because it's.
Take $100,000.
You were planning on leaving that spending all the same anyways.
Got it.
So,
Taking 100
so
grand
then
from
the
you.
question is to the director, if we saved another $100,000 by taking reserve money from rec instead of taxation, what does that put the 4-point tax % increase to? Please.
Puts it to about 4.4.
I'll motion that we make that $100,000 move from reserves, rec reserves, to cover off taxation in the rec.
You have a seconder? Councillor Palmer, any questions? Yeah, we move Councillor Pelkman and Councillor Kennis again.
So, through the mayor to the director, I would like to ask him if he's comfortable with the amount of money in reserves should there be a failure at one of the arenas during the budget year. You're the one that knows the cost of replacing equipment.
So, through the chair to Councillor Pelkman, it truly depends on what fails. So we've had bleacher heaters fail this year. We've had heat exchangers in air conditioning units and stuff fail. So anywhere's between, your $100,000 to $200,000 that you're looking at repairs. So there's about $1 million in reserves and arenas.
that from
So
twenty
you
twenty-three
would
or
be
current?
sufficient.
Thank you.
So, how do we get a current list? Or is that from the last update that we received?
That's from the last one, Bo, that's what I have.
Like
Whatever I have, everybody
from the
else.
October update, not from 2023?
Correct.
Because the last one we got presented was just 2023, the reserves.
Yeah, that's what I have, closing balance 2023. Any other comments? Councillor Canis?
Just for clarification, there seems to be a goal of 4.5%, which I guess I'm not privy to. But where did that number come from, I guess, is, as opposed to the 4.9 or the whatever?
I've watched what's been going on in the province. I've looked what's gone on close to us with our other neighboring municipalities in Middlesex, and I'm comfortable at 4.4, 4.5. I think 4.9 is just outside of where I'm comfortable at. And if $100,000 makes the difference, to me, I think that's something I could vote in favor of and be done with our budget.
Yeah. Councillor Canis?
I can live with that, but it shouldn't be a contest between municipalities as to who has, that we're, in the end, we need to look after our community. And again, if we can get away with 4.5% this year and everything's good, then I will vote for that. But I think it should be based on sound decision-making, not because of what other councils and other municipalities are doing. Just a statement, that's all.
Yep, Councillor Derbyshire.
Thank you. Can I just make a statement on this whole process here for?
Can we vote on the motion first, Bo?
Sure.
Yeah, because there's a second motion in front of us, so there's a second motion to reduce by $100,000, so all in favor of the motion? Opposed, if any? Carries. The floor is yours now, Bo.
Thank you. So I know we just put ours down to 4.4, right? On the tax levy.
On the tax rate.
What we're gonna pay.
Yeah.
Because we get talking about other rates, the budget increase of 48% and like,
Yeah.
so I'm just saying, for people who pay taxes in this area, they pay all three of them to us. We then dole it out, right?
Yes.
I understand that we are shooting for our number at this. What I would like to see for the people is the total number. So our number, the county number, and that, because I think a lot of people hear us go 4.4, and then they get their tax bill and go, well, that doesn't add up, right? It's because it's all paid to us, even though it is broken out and we have to give out over that. When we begin to talk about this rate as what you're going to pay as a rate payer, I do believe we should not, this is our number for in here. The outside number, the rest of the world is gonna get I don't know, what's county?
We don't know yet.
Right, so, like if county's 2 or 3 and the school board's 2 or 3,
Well, what do you think it's gonna be?
We don't know. They just had the budget meetings in December. We're not on the budget committee, so we will know better tomorrow when we get to county. We'll ask.
that's, like, and I'm not saying we should go lower or higher, this or that, I'm just saying, when we talk to people, and we should make it crystal clear, we do collect all of it. So what you are paying to Strathroy-Caradoc is going to be somewhere around, I don't even want to throw it a percent because then it'll get out of hand.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Canis.
So just on that, so what's the division again? Is it like 50, 25, 25, or exactly how does that work?
Through the chair to Councillor Canis, so we're about 55% of the tax bill. The county is, I think it's about the difference, and then the province is a little of that as well. So I think they split the other almost in half. The province, just so you know, is at 0 because it's the education piece. So it's just a county piece, and all the time that we present documents, we're talking specifically about municipal portion. And then you'll notice on the tax bill, one of the things that we've done on our tax bill is when you get your tax bill, your final tax bill, it is actually split out how much is us how much is the county and how much is the province. That's actually split out and shows a percentage increase on there so people can clearly see what that is.
One more and then we'll.
Yeah, I guess when we do a final report, I would just like to see it in there that this is our number, no problem. When we know what the total number is, I do think we should put that out for the people so that when they get their bill, I know it's all broken down, but I do get phone calls with people being like, this doesn't even make sense. You guys are, last year we were what, 3.7 or something, or 4.7, and this isn't adding up and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, now I'm walking them through this process, which I don't mind doing, and feel free to call, but I'm just saying, we in here begin to talk because you know what's going on, but as we get farther out, so that's, if I could have that somewhere in there that we actually show people what their total is, or at least say it so that, we aren't thinking 4.4 is what people are paying taxes on.
Any other, Councillor Wilsey, then we'll move for adjournment.
So the only comment I want to make is we've basically moved stuff in and out of the capital budget tonight. We haven't really did anything with operations. When we look at the operations budget that's presented, it's a statement that's based on cash accounting. This might be something in the future where I might ask the director to, or see if council's willing to have the director do a meeting and talk about cash versus accrual, because our year-end statements on what's going into reserve is accrual and this is cash, and they're different numbers. They're different by about $3 million between these two reports. That's not what I'm going to look into, but when we're basing our budget, we're basing it off the cash accounting documents, which actually don't match the audited documents that we did last year. So when we're looking at increases on our operating budget, we're basing it off the cash accounting, which doesn't actually match the audited statements they put through because they're two different accounting systems. So we're basing a percentage of increases based on the cash budget without knowing what our reserve transfers are going to be into and out of it. Like, we look at our cash flow statement, we just say 13 million is what we had left to spend at the end of Q3, or close to half of our tax budget. But we're assuming on this one, going by cash, that we're spending all of it and we need more for next year. As council, we haven't delved into the operating. We haven't seen if the reserve transfer payments are bigger than we thought they were going to be, if departments have different spending than what they thought they were going to have. We're just cutting projects that are building and hurting our asset management and things going into the future. We haven't even gone into what we've actually changed with salaries and staff, and maybe departments have got more efficient, but we don't know because we've all just given them the increase for all the way through. And that never came to council. So yes, we can pass this budget, but know that all we've done is we've really just harmed the asset management by taking things out of it, and we haven't looked at the biggest portion of that, which is our operations, and how much is actually going into it under reserves, and whether that's over or under budget, because we're not going to get that number for another 10 to 11 months, which seems kind of backwards for budgeting, but it's where we are.
Councillor Canis.
Just to comment on that, but that's no different than any other municipality. And, we just got our final statements for 2023 from BDO in December, right? So, and only after we approve the statements can then the monies be transferred into reserves from 2023. So, I mean, it'd be nice if we could do it the way Councillor Wilsey suggests, but then we'd never get a budget approved for 2024 until after 2024 was over, I guess. I don't know, but yeah.
Okay, Deputy Mayor, then Councillor Pell.
I don't want to belate an issue, but Councillor Kennis really made me think when he asked a question that I just wasn't ready for. Sorry, there's my mic on. So it's like, so why am I thinking at 4445, and which I have been for a long time. So now that 5 minutes have gone by, I've been able to think about it. I looked at the cost of living. I accept cost of living at 2.5%. I've got a number of reports that is running anywhere from 1.74 to about 2.7. But I accept the cost of living is pretty consistent at about 2.5%. So what we have done with about a 4.5% increase is showing that we are doing a 2% increase in our work flowing. Like we're building this organization 2% a year, hopefully being able to do a little bit more work each and every year. I guess that's probably the best answer I could give you to your question. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Then Councillor Pelkman.
I think that's great. I think that I totally understand what you're saying, and I support the 4.5. I'm good with that. I think it just, whatever we do, I think we need to sort of, give the background to where we come up with that number, and I think that's fair to do. I think we're accused by some of our people that don't like us of pulling numbers out of the air and just, going up this and that amount, and I think tonight we've had some really good discussion about where numbers come from and moving some of those numbers around to come up with a decent tax increase. I agree, this is gonna be a really, I say that every year, this is gonna be a really interesting year, within our own country, where what government we will have moving forward. We have a new guy, not a new guy, but an old guy running the U.S. Starting next week again, with a lot of threats associated with that. So it's really difficult. And people are facing real challenges economically, and so I think that we can keep it at this number. I think that's a good thing for us to do. But I think we always have to, come up with the logic for where we come up with those numbers. So I think we've done that tonight. So I'm good with things. So.
Good question. Councillor Pelton? Well, with that, I'd like to make a motion the next meeting is Monday, January 27th at 5 p.m. Motion to adjourn at 7:23 p.m. Councillor Canis, second by Deputy Mayor.
Question.
Sorry, yep.
The next meeting is the 20th or the 27th?
I have the 27th on this note. The Finance Committee.
Oh, Finance, okay.
Finance Committee, yeah, I apologize. The 20th. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn, all in favor? Carried.